Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Lumio webinar. I am so excited to be with you all today working on Lumio tips that you didn't know you needed. There are so many things that I love about Lumio that we don't always get to talk about in our regular getting started session. So I'm excited to show you a couple little hidden tricks that I think you might like. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Mish, and I'm a learning and community designer here at Lumio. Prior to being here, I was a kindergarten and first grade teacher for Chicago Public Schools. And based on what my friends are telling me about what's happening with the weather the next few days, I'm really glad that I ran away to Arizona. I'm hearing that school got canceled in Chicago for tomorrow already. And I hope you guys are prepared. I hope you're staying warm. Sending you all the good luck. Hello from New York. I hope the weather over there is not so bad either. But like I said, I love all things Lumio. And if you'd like to kind of get connected and see all the different things that you can do with Lumio that might not be so obvious, in the chat and on the screen, I've got my Instagram there, Teach with Mish3. And I just drop a variety of little Lumio tips and tricks on there too, quick 60-second or less reels with little things that I think are really exciting. Let's get started. So it's January. It's almost February. We're in that stretch waiting for spring break, right? So teacher survival kit. I need to know what you think from these things is least to most essential. So I haven't done anything with this page yet. If you are connected to my Lumio lesson, you can't do anything. You'll notice that all you can do is look. But on my screen, if you take a look at our call, you'll notice that I've got these little tiles here set to move side to side. Okay, so now that you see what you can kind of do here, what I'd love for you to do is go ahead and rate what you think these need to go in. So what I'll do is click on my little people tool and you'll see that I get some options: individual handout, group workspace, and whole class whiteboard. I want to hear from you what you think are most essential from these different survival toolkit items. I'm going to give you all a second. Maybe I'll even tell you what I think is most important. It's January, so I feel like hand sanitizer should be all the way up front. And some coffee, always. Chocolate. And I would say at this point, I probably am collecting lots of different work samples. So maybe keeping myself organized with some paper clips. But I feel like Post-its, should it be last? I have like 100 Post-its on my desk right now, guys. I don't know. This feels weird. This is a hard one. I tricked myself, but here's what I'm going to do. If you're toggling between two different screens, come on back to our call really quick and take a look, and you'll notice that I have this dashboard here where I can see all of you are working. You'll notice I've got some green check marks. I've got kind of those 3 moving circles. If you're still working, at the top right of your screen, you have a button that says done. And one way that I like to use that done button, other than just saying, hey, Mish, I'm done, is I'll ask my students, if you're feeling brave today and you're okay with me sharing your work with the whole class, go ahead and hit that done button, because now you'll see on my dashboard, I can see who those belong to. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Monica here, and we can see what Monica thinks is most essential. Chocolate. Oh, you think coffee is least essential. You might be a tea drinker, maybe? Or are you lots of water? I wonder how you're surviving without caffeine, because I need lots of it. But what I can do, what you might not know about an individual handout, is I actually am able to write or add something to this page that just this student would see. So maybe I would like to add a little brain here, because I'm wondering, tell me more. Like, what is your teacher beverage choice? Let's not talk after hour drinks. Let's talk during hour drinks here. And what I'm going to do is actually drop down Monica's handout, and just Monica would see that little addition that I've made to their worksheet there. Now, something brand new that just came out in Lumio, it's in our beta channel, and I'll remind you and show you guys later how you can add our beta features to Lumio. This has been the most frequently asked question in our Facebook group, and it was, hey, we love doing individual handouts. How do I export those so that I can use them for grading, student portfolios, or just really quickly in one very easy screen be able to see all of my amazing student work? So now there's this brand new button, which we were all very excited about. Our prod team did such an amazing job. There's now this button right here that says export PDF. And what it'll do is it'll take all of these worksheets here and create a PDF for us. There is going to be even more improvements coming to this PDF export button, but try it out. I am so obsessed. All right. So let's move on here. So I'm going to come back over to my teacher handout. Now you'll notice that when you guys were moving these around, you were only able to move them side to side. And so something that I'll show you how I created later on is that this has a locking feature on it. In Lumio, you're able to lock things in different ways. You can lock something in place. For example, you'll notice that this text box is totally locked. I can't move it at all. But these, I've set a rule for it to be locked horizontal, which means it can only move side to side. It can't move up and down, but there's even more different ways you can use locking features in Lumio. So I really quickly just put together a few different examples of what you can do with these locking features. So this one here is kind of another timeline activity where students would be sorting the chronological order of something that happened after, a history lesson that we might have had. And you can even use those locking features to hide things off the screen. So that arrow, if I pulled where it says answer key, it would pull in, right from the side of the screen there. For my math teachers, I had drag each fraction to match with its decimal equivalent. So you'll notice I had kind of like an empty circle with a full circle here where they could match. And then off the screen, I had a little extra credit. After you're done with that, go ahead and sort those from least to greatest. So those were all locked horizontally. Now, another locking feature, and again, I'll show you where you're going to go to create these things. We're going to do a little bit of showing here, then I'm going to do a little bit of making and taking together. This one here I had for my younger students, where they would drag and drop each of these little materials that they might find on their desk, like a pencil. And those I have set, there is a lock and allow move and rotate. So they were able to move it down to the ruler and then rotate the object so that it was perfectly aligned. So that one, they can't resize it, but they can move and they can rotate. So they're the only locked part of it is the size. All right. This one happens to be one of my favorites because I was a kindergarten teacher, but this one I had locked vertically. So remember our timeline, we had locked horizontal. This one, I actually have these little bar graphs, and those bars there are locked. So you can only move them up and down. And same with the thermometer, there is a red rectangle that I put there that moves up and down. I'll show you how I did a couple of these things. So we've seen horizontal, we've seen allow, move, and rotate. And then we've seen also lock, but vertical movement. And last but not least here, this one I had allow move. So they could move it all around the screen, but they couldn't resize, they couldn't rotate, just the physical size of it was locked up. So they did a little puzzle. Now, I know I just really quickly told you a few different ways that you could lock those. There is another webinar that is linked already in the chat for you, and we'll share these again at the very end. But if you are connected to my lesson and you click right where on this little square here, that is a previous recording that we have that goes all over all these activities for locking. If you hang tight with me again, I'm going to do a little bit of showing right now, and then I'm going to dive in and you guys are going to log in as teachers and we'll create some of these activities together as well. But just always like to leave you with some ideas so that you have them so that when we get to that creation part, you've got some different ideas going. All right. This is a really cool activity. I'm always thinking of how can I make it easier for my students to navigate from one website to another or from one page to another. So I don't have to waste time kind of running around. Hey, let me get, Monica logged into this website. Let me get Tisha logged into this website. It's all right here. So for this activity, I might ask my students, hey, choose one of the animals below and click on it to read more. So they're doing a research project. And maybe I would like to control where they're doing that research. So if they were wanting to do it about sharks, they might click on that link. I attached a link to my little shark here, and that would take them out to an article that I've pre-selected for National Geographic. So I know that all the information that they might need to fill out that graphic organizer is right here for them. And now they have the tab. They know they can quickly come right back to Lumio, and each of those is linked right there. So one of the great things we've got in Lumio is easily being able to link things to objects. Now, you don't only have to be able to link to external websites. You could also link to different pages in your Lumio file. So kind of like creating a choice board here. Now, just for time's sake, I didn't link all of these activities here, but you'll notice I added a little icon to indicate that this is the one we're going to play with here. and I chose to create a podcast activity here. Now, I'm not going to dive too far into choice boards because in just a few weeks, I'm going to do a full webinar on creating choice boards in Lumio. And so Tisha actually just put that right in the chat for you, where you can go to find that webinar on February 18th, where we're going to focus in on that. But here's my little hidden trick that I want to show you specifically with this that you might not know about. The last few minutes, you might have noticed as I was changing the pages in Lumio, y'all were locked in with me. Whatever page I was on, you were on too. So here's what I'd like to show you. In this top left corner, I'm going to click on those two little people. Call that kind of like my class management button. Remember, we came over here earlier because I wanted to show you we can convert a page into an activity. But you also, in the top left corner, have some buttons. One that says teacher or student and a little toggle there. And right now, I've got the lesson pacing set to teacher, which means you are locked into whichever page I'm on. But let's say now it's time for you to work on that choice board. I'm going to toggle it to student. And if you're logged into my lesson, what you'll notice now is you have the ability to navigate through the pages. So your little navigation bar will allow you to switch here, or you can click on create a podcast, and then you'd be able to come over to this page here. We're going to dive in again to making choice boards together. February 18th, there's going to be another webinar just about that. Right now, I know I'm throwing lots of ideas at you. We're moving a little bit faster paced right now. We're going to move into creating in just a few more minutes. But from here, a couple of things that I wanted to show you on this page, and that's audio. There's so many ways that you can use audio within Lumio, and you'll notice they're right in the middle of my screen. What I did here was I actually recorded myself reading those instructions there, because I think about all of my different students, and maybe for some, it might be easier to listen as they read those instructions, or maybe they struggle with a few of those words. So I want to be able to make sure that they know exactly what they're doing. But audio is not only available on the teacher side, also students will have it. So I'm going to show you where you can find that if you're a student. So what I'll do right now really quick is I'll come back to my people management button, and I'm going to click on individual handout. So if you're connected, what you'll notice now is on the left side of your screen, you should see all of these different tools. Now, if you don't see them and you just see three dots, click those three dots and then all those tools will appear. And if you click on that button that has the heart and the plus, we call that button your gallery. If you click in there, you'll notice you do have a little microphone button. So students have different ways to participate in an activity. I specifically here made this into a podcast activity, but when I'm doing any kind of activity, it's so important for me to align to the UDL framework and allow my students different modalities to participate in a lesson, whether their preference or their strength is writing or typing or bringing in an image or just simply verbally responding. They always have the ability to go ahead and record their audio as well. You'll get this little pop-up, and then your student or you as the teacher can respond. This is another way you can get feedback on an individual handout as well. And then that'll come up as a little window here, and you can drop it to wherever it needs to go. So a few different ways to use audio there as well. And if you'll stay with me for one more minute, I'm going to show you one more thing, and then we're going to get to creating. Any questions so far? I think we're all good. Hey, Monica, love to see you in the chat there. All right. So this is the activity that I think I would love for us to kind of start working with. And I have a couple of little hidden tricks I'm going to show you here. But the first thing I want to say is I always want to make my lessons relevant to what my students are interested in. And I recently got myself a new iPad, and my TikTok algorithm figured me out. So I'm now on the side of TikTok that's telling me all the cool things that the kids are doing on the iPad. And I found that one of the popular games right now that everyone's playing on their iPad is a game called Good Pizza, Great Pizza, where they basically are pretending like they work at a pizzeria and they're getting orders, and they have to see if a pizza needs half cheese or half pepperoni, so on and so forth. And I thought, let's make this into a math activity. So here is where I'm going to have you all, if you're toggling with two different screens, come back over to just our webinar, and I'm going to go into editing mode, and then I'll have you all follow me just a few more moments here. So again, I took a game idea that I had on the iPad that the students are all loving right now, and I want to try a couple different tips and tricks here. So The first thing I want to do is for some of my students, some manipulatives might be really helpful. So, my first trick I'm going to show you is I'm actually going to go over to Google and I'm going to search for, let's say, sliced mushrooms because I know that that's one of the toppings that they're going to work with. Here's my little trick. It's technically outside of Lumio, but I think you might like it. I'm going to go to images, click on tools, and you'll notice that there's an option here for color. And I'm going to go down to transparent. And I think this one looks good. I'm going to click here and you'll notice when I do open up that image, it's got that checkered background. It's letting me know that it is a transparent background. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that image. I'll come back to Lumio and I'm going to copy and paste it here. I just did a good Control V there. So trick number one here is my little Google image hack. I love when I can get a picture in here that doesn't have the white background. Now, to create your own manipulative or to make something infinitely cloned, you can do this with anything that you put into your Lumio file here, is I'm going to click this drop-down arrow and I will click Infinite Cloner. I now have an infinite amount of these little mushrooms here. That's my first little trick I want to show you. You also, and from the student side, because I'm going to have them decide how many slices this pizza needs to have, or if they need a visual of like what a half might look like. On the student side as well, what they'll see, I'm going to come back to the student side, finish editing. If I were, and I'd like for you all to experiment with me, I'm going to turn this into an individual handout here. Come on over to your little gallery button. Remember, that's on the left where you've got your heart and your plus. Go to the option that has a square in the circle. You've got shapes and you've got lines. Let's click over to lines. And I'm going to just grab that straight one and then I'm going to move it over. So from here, I might go ahead and help me make a visual. And I'll just Control C and Control V to make exactly the same size there. And I'll rotate it so I can see some visuals to make my lines here. I'm making them a little crooked. But I've now turned this into an interactive activity very similar to that iPad game, and I've now made it into a math lesson. But one more thing, remember on the other slide, I recorded myself reading those instructions. Now, perhaps I'm working with some students that need that reading guidance, or maybe I'm working with some students that are learning a new language. Here's something else that you might not know is in Lumio. Back in my toolbar on the left, you'll notice that there is a little icon with a book with a little audio symbol. If I click on that, this right here is Immersive Reader, which is an amazing Microsoft tool that's embedded right into Lumio. So if I click on that, it's going to find the text on the screen for me. So I made sure I typed all this text when I was creating in Lumio. I'm going to click on that paragraph and it's going to bring me to this page here. From here, the first thing that I can do very simply put is I can just click play. I don't know if I shared with audio, but you will notice that it's reading it one page at a time, or sorry, one word at a time, and it highlights the word as I'm going. But let's see how much further we can refine it. From here, I can change the text size if my students maybe need that. And one thing I'll quickly say right now, you'll notice if you're following along on your own Lumio, as I'm changing these things, they're not changing on yours. And that's because Immersive Reader is meant to be per user. So you would create this for your own learning needs. They might be different than mine, for example. Okay. So you can go ahead and change that text size. You can increase or you can decrease that spacing. You also can change the font. A lot of us former primary teachers here, I like to use Comic Sans because we'll say, hey, that's the real A versus the fake A, as we call it. And I had a question in here. Does Immersive Reader work on iPads? Yes. So if a student is connected to your Lumio lesson and your page has text that you physically have typed into there, or if you brought in a previously made PDF or slide as editable, it will be able to recognize that text on the screen. Okay, great question. You can also change the background here if you've got any students that are dyslexic. Blue does make it easier for their eyes to process, so you could change that color there. You do also have some grammar options if maybe you are teaching. You're very welcome, Julie. If you are teaching parts of speech, you can highlight those different words. You can break apart words by syllable. And you also have some different more like reading preferences. So you could, if you have some emerging readers or students that need a little bit more help with focus, you could bring in that line focus. You can do a single line, you could do a few lines, or you could do many. You also have a picture dictionary, and those are actually the pictures from board makers. If you've got any students that have AAC devices, it's kind of neat because it keeps those images consistent there. So if I just click on the word pepperoni, oh, that one didn't work. Of course not. Why would it? I'll click on the word pizza there, and you'll notice that I got a couple of visuals there of what that word could mean. But this might be my favorite part. What I can also do is go to translate. And again, this is a Microsoft feature. So the languages you see here, those are ones that are chosen by Microsoft. But maybe I've got some students that I'm going to go down to Spanish here. Maybe I've got some Spanish speakers. You'll even notice that there's 3 different dialects of Spanish in here, and I'll choose Mexico. And you can do by word or you can do by document. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll close it. And maybe I have a student that needs to listen to that in Spanish. Maybe they're like, hey, I'm brave. Now I want to try this in English. I'm going to go back. They have the ability to toggle through here. You've also got some voice settings, so you can change the speed and then the gender. All of that happened because I had some text on my screen and I clicked on that little icon in the bottom left corner. All right, I've done lots of showing. Are we ready to do a little bit of building together here? Again, just like I said in the very beginning of our webinar, I want you to think about yourself as a learner. If it's easier for you to just sit back and just watch and then use the recording later to kind of interact and try things out, that's okay. Or if for you, you need to interact as you kind of hear and see, here's what I'm going to have you do. What you're going to do is just go to, wow, Michelle, can you speak English today? Is go to golumio.com. And what you're going to do is actually sign in as a teacher. Now, because you've joined me as a student before, it might kick you back to joining in as a student. So what you'll do if it brings you back to that student screen, in very small text in blue at the very bottom of that login window, it's going to say, are you a teacher? Sign in here instead. Otherwise, go ahead and go to golumio.com and click sign in, and you'll go ahead and come in with your school district credentials. And I'm going to pause here for just a beat so that anyone that is coming in and wanting to play as a teacher, you have a moment. So let's take a quick beat here. We've got someone joining in from Spain. That is super fun. You know, by the way, for those of us that are logging in as teachers, you are able to, you know, you're in the right place when at least the first few inches of your screen, the top, look just like mine. Here's what I'd like to do. If you are on the screen with me, we're going to click on the new button in the top left corner of our screen. And then from here, we're just going to start with a pretty blank page. Thanks, Monica, for letting me know in the chat. And I'm going to click on new page, and I'm just going to grab myself a blank page. All right, I'm going to pause here, make sure everyone is with me. I clicked on new page, and I grabbed myself a blank one. I want to show you how we can do a couple of those different locking activities, specifically that timeline ranking activity. So I used all different objects that I already have right here in my creation screen. So at the top, I've got that same gallery button that you had when you were a student, that same shapes button, and we'll come over to the lines, and I am going to grab my 2-sided arrow here. All right. I'm going to make this the entire width of my screen here. You'll notice that you can change the color of your line. You can change the thickness of it. You can make it straight. You can make it dotted. You can even change what's at the end of it. So if you wanted it to be a circle at one end or an arrow, you do have the ability to change what those endpoints are. Now, when my students are interacting, this is super important. Anytime you're creating anything in Lumio, the first thing I want you to think about is, should this thing that I'm moving or creating right now, should my students be able to touch it or move it? This line here, probably not. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on it, click on my downward arrow, and now you'll see all of these different locking options. Now, lock in place just means it's going to sit right there. It can't do anything except exist in that spot. So I'm going to lock in place, and we're going to come back and look at those other locking options in just a moment. Now, coming right back to the gallery again, I'm using all things that already exist for me. And I am actually going to, let's see, I think I'd like to pick the one that has the 2 circles on it. And then I'm going to grab one end and move it so that it is vertical for me. And I'm actually going to grab the endpoints for me. I would like one end to be round, that to have that circle at the end, and I want one end to just not have anything at the end. And I'll make it thicker, just like so. All right. Next, I am going to come back here, and instead of lines, I'm going to go to my shapes, and I'm going to grab my little rounded square here, and I'm going to pop it right over this line. Now, I want you to quickly think about what you'd like your activity to be. I'm going to just make my number sequencing. Maybe you'd like to do that least essential to most essential option for your teacher toolkit. Maybe you are a social studies teacher and you're sequencing events that happened in a historical event. Maybe you are ELA teacher and you're sequencing events in a novel that you've read. So think about what you can make a timeline about. Now, I'm going to just grab the A here, and I'm going to grab the number, let's just say 3. And I'm going to pop that into my square. I'll make it nice and large. Okay. I'm trying to go slowly here. So if you're clicking around with me, you have the ability to do that as well. So now I've got 3 different objects here. I've got my line. Here's my line moving. I've got my little tile. And then I've got the number 3. Now what I'm going to do is actually, and it depends which computer you have. I just have an HP. For me, I'm going to hold the shift bar, and I'm going to select all 3 of those objects. Alternatively, I could hold the shift and I can kind of just drag my mouse like so. If you're on a Chromebook, I think for you, you probably are going to use the control button to do that. And if you're on a Mac, you're going to use the command button, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Now that I've got all 3 of those things selected, what I'll do is click on any of those downward arrows, doesn't matter which one. And what I'll do first is group those objects together. So you'll now see that all 3 of those things are now made one. And the very last step is I'll hit that down arrow one more time. And here's my locking options: allow vertical move, allow horizontal move, and let's go ahead and do horizontal. So you'll now see it only moves side to side. Remember, if you do scroll up in the chat, there was a link there. Tisha called it locking features, and she put a YouTube link. Thanks, Tisha. That one is going to go over how I did all those other locking activities where you can do vertical, where you can create puzzles, different things like that. And I'll tell you what the secret sauce is. The secret sauce in making anything with your locking features is grouping your things together. Okay, so remember how we just got 3 different objects where we put them together. No matter what you're doing, grouping is going to be your best friend when you are using any of those locking features. Now, really quickly, I'm going to just show you how to do some linking in here. Let's say I would like this object here. I'm just going to go from this exact same page. I would like, I'm going to bring actually here. I'm going to go to my little emojis, and I'm going to put in this little thinking brain. Maybe I had my students thinking and they weren't sure how to do this activity. Maybe I know I have a link that's going to help them. Now, what I might do is click on this little brain here, and what I'm going to do is find the attach link button. If I click on attach link, from here, I have a couple of options. I can either copy and paste a link to another website. Remember when I had you guys do that animal research where I had all those cute little animals and they went to different National Geographic Kids articles? This is where I would have copy and pasted that link. Or if we're creating a choice board or we're trying to make easy navigation within our Lumio file, which we're going to go over February 18th at the next webinar, you can also link to another page in your Lumio file. So once you have either copy and pasted your URL or you've chosen another page link in your file, you also have this option right here, enable corner icon. And what that does is you'll see here, I'm just going to do google.com. Very simple. And I have that little enable corner icon toggled on, and I'll click attach link. Y'all see this little link icon that shows up for me? So that helps my students to see that there is something that they can click on here. Now, let's just say it's later in the school year. They know that anytime they see this little brain, or if we're doing a choice board, they know that those things are clickable. What I'm going to really quickly do is remove that link, and I'll show you one more time. If I were to attach a link, I don't have to have that toggled on. So I'll do the same thing. Maybe I'll have that go to google.com. I turn that off. And now you'll see that there isn't any little icon letting me know that it's linked. Kind of just makes the page look less cluttered. But nevertheless, if I click on that, it shows me that there's a link right there and it'll take me to that external site. Okay, so we started with our locking features. We showed how to do the timeline. I just showed you how to link to an external website. February 18th, we'll talk a little bit more about how to do a choice board in there. Now, a couple other things I want to show you just as a reminder is that anything that you create can be infinitely cloned. So I'm going to come back to my gallery and now I'm going to bring out this little heart. Maybe I wanted my students to then show me the number 3 using those manipulatives. So I can just click on that downward arrow, click on Infinite Cloner, and now they can come over here and show me 3 objects. So anything that's in here, even if I wrote the word, let's just say hello, anything you put in your page here can still be infinitely cloned. Really great way to make custom manipulatives. But let's just say you're running short on time. You want to grab something that's ready for you. You always have the ability in that bottom left corner, if you click on that blue plus button, you also have lots of pre-made manipulatives right in this menu for you. So if I click on that green manipulatives button, here's some different options for you like algebra tiles, 10 frames. There is a little pizza fractions one. There's coins. We have all different types of coins here for the UK, for Canadian, for US. All of these are pre-made for you. So just to show you, if I open up this coins one here, click on that. Hold music. You'll see that these are now infinitely cloned for me. Now, a little side trick here is let's just say you didn't really want to confuse your students with the fronts and the backs of the coins. Any of those manipulatives that we have in the ready-made resources, they're still customizable. So let's just say I didn't want the backs of these coins. I can just click on it. I can see that little infinity sign there. Click on it, hit disable, and then I can go ahead and remove it. So I'm just going to delete these 2 that I brought out. And maybe I want to finish getting rid of those. And I can make this into a worksheet here. So I might say, show me 2 ways to make, let's say, $1.35. Let's remember anything that our students shouldn't edit anytime we're done, we're always going to click that down arrow and we are going to click lock in place. Now, remember earlier when I had you guys logged in as students, I had converted those pages into individual handouts while you were already connected to my lesson. I personally love to do it that way because for me, then I know I can release all of those instructions to my students before I release them to do the activity. But what you can also do is by clicking on this magic wand right from here, you do have the ability to convert it into an activity when you're still in your planning and creation part. So you have the ability to go ahead and convert it here. Here's where I want to show you, you can add that instructional audio. There's 2 different ways. I can simply go back to my gallery button, click on my little microphone, and I can show my students here. I'm going to drop it down so I can still see what's on my screen. And I'll say, show me 2 ways to make $1.35. And I can have that be sitting right next to the text. So they know that that little audio is going to read specifically that for them. But you have one more audio option in the top right corner. There is a little person talking. And this one here is going to be your instructional audio. So if I click on that, I'm actually going to have audio that's going to float over this page. So I might say, use the coins on the bottom of the screen. They're infinitely cool manipulatives. Just show me 2 different ways to make $1.35. And then I might say, like, here's an extra challenge. Try to show me one way using the most amount of coins possible. Show me one way to use the least amount of coins possible. And so now when I'm done, that's going to live in that top right corner here. And so for my students, I might need the instructions repeated to them multiple times, or if I'm assigning this to them for homework asynchronously, they'll be able to still have my voice right there with them. All right, I have shown you so many different things. I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but remember, any of these things I have resources for. So what I'm going to do real quick is come to my class sessions, and I'm going to reopen the exact same file that we were just in, and we are going to go over some resources together. So, And as I'm chatting, you'll notice in the chat, some of these links are going to come up. So remember that this was kind of like the webinar. I've been using Lumio. I might want to look at some more tricks that I can do. But if you need to take a step back and you're like, hey, I need to go back to the basics, there's a few options for you. Number one is the Academy. So there is a getting started with Lumio course right in our Academy. In addition, there is also using AI in Lumio. There is a Lumio level 1 educator. So there's kind of like next steps for using Lumio in the Academy. There's also all of our webinars. So from getting started with Lumio to those locking features, there's so many different previous webinar recordings that you can watch. And again, there's the upcoming one on February 18th, where we're going to talk more about page linking to go ahead and make those choice boards. We also have our YouTube channel. When you guys receive the recording of this webinar, it's going to be a YouTube link. Make sure you check out the Lumio Social YouTube page. On there, you'll find a few different playlists. There's going to be some that are just 2 to 3 minute quick train videos of how do I connect my students? How do I attach audio? How do I attach links? How do I use AI? And then all of our previously recorded webinars are also housed right there for you. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you about is we have an incredible community of ambassadors. We are, if you didn't know, all over the world. So there's teachers. You'll notice in the chat, we had someone from Spain join us. We've got people in Australia, in Finland, in South Africa. We've got people in Canada, all over. And so it's a really cool place. It's kind of like a Facebook group, but like just for people using Lumio. And Smart, also, if you're one of our smart folks, where you can go on and you can share your ideas, connect with other teachers. And then if we ever see you at conferences, like right now, we've got folks at BET. Last week, we had folks at, what was last week? FETC. Next week is TCEA, ABCDEFG. We've got so many different conferences. And if we ever see you at them, we love hanging out with our ambassadors. We always try to do a little gathering, and we have some different little gifts for you guys when we see you in person. So if you're not an ambassador yet, Tisha dropped the application right in the chat for you. So make sure you apply to be an ambassador. And then last but not least, if you're a Facebook user, we also have a group where I'll post different clips from different past webinars, our Lumio lives. If we have a new feature that was announced, I'll post all those in there. And that's also a quick place to go if you ever have a question. And anyone on our team or any other teachers all over the world using Lumio will pop on and answer those questions for you. So I want to just thank you all for spending the afternoon with me, wherever you are in the world. It might be the evening, the morning. Thank you for spending the last 40 minutes with me. If you'd like to receive your certificate and credit hour for attending this webinar, there is a survey that you can fill out. It's in the chat, and it's also right here on the screen. And once you fill that out, you will get that certificate. And I hope to see you guys on February 18th for our next webinar on choice boards. So we'll see you guys next time, and thanks for your time.